Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce, and a co-stream actually with my good friend Greg Terry from The Greg Terry Experience. Greg, how are you, my friend?
I would do my best Johnny Pearce impersonation here and say, hey guys, welcome to the Greg Terry Experience. And it's so wonderful that I'm able to co-stream with my dear friend, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. Although we are on different planets sometimes in this universe, our hearts are bound together and we are lifetime friends and co-laborers for all that is good.
Absolutely. Ukraine.
I just need one of those hats. You know what? You're aggravating me if you put that hat. Hold on. Before we get serious here, hold on. You go do that to me. I'm going to do something to you.
Yeah, you do it. Welcome everyone to the live stream. We have got a lot to talk about tonight, and while I have you as a captive audience, I have to let you know that yes, I have not put my geopolitical video out. My brain has been all over the place the last few days. It automatically schedules when you schedule a video, it automatically schedules for the next day, and you have to change it for today. So I scheduled it for later today, and I forgot to change it to today, and it's tomorrow. So the geopolitical video will come out later after this one, so it doesn't get in the way. Sorry, Greg, have you got a good hat to add?
I can't put my earphones on yet because I was having some ear problems. I was telling everybody on the stream last night. So I can go with the Raymond Reddington look, and I can put that one on you, but I really can't wear my earbuds with that. I can also go with my my hat I wear in Africa. I'm in Africa working all the time. So we can go with this one, and I can do that.
You're in the outback, mate.
Hey,
and
wearing a hat, I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah, fair cop, my friend. So what you are back. Many of you, well, most of my viewers will know of your comings and goings, but you are back in the US. You've been in Ukraine for a good long time. Do you want to just update people with where you're at, what you've been up to?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that. Thank you. Returned back from Ukraine 10 days ago, and I will be here for 5-6 more weeks. I'm hoping at the maximum. And I will return to Ukraine. I was there for 3 months. Johnny came over, others came over. We have so many things happening right now. It's exciting. Tomorrow night, you guys know we're in the middle of a huge snatch project. And tomorrow night, Professor Gertis will be on with me, and we will have the updated giving total toward the snatches. All I can tell you is, guys, buckle your seatbelts because we're going to make a jump, and it's going to be a good jump. I cannot give it away yet because our office right now probably is still processing all of the numbers. We had the flag raffle this weekend on Rick the Ukrainians, raised a lot of money for the snatches. We also had some other donations come in via mail and standard donations that are coming in all the time as we've built trust throughout the world, throughout channels like ATP Geopolitics here. And I just want to say thank you guys because we're making a huge difference. And the hope is once the snatches are paid in full, it takes about 5 weeks is what we've been told to process all of the paperwork for export and import. And once that's done, I will meet the vehicles in Lviv and we will have a convoy and deliver them to the front lines. What I plan to do going forward for the rest of the year is just come and go. I'm used to travel. I've traveled my entire life a lot. It's what I do. And going to focus this year completely on Ukraine. I won't be going to Africa or other places that I go. You know, I do. You can go to Pakistan with me, have fun there. Just Ukraine. It's my mother said, you know, you go to the craziest places. I said, yes, mother, I do. But my wife lets me go. So basically what I think I'd like to do going forward, we built such a coalition of all of us together, and that includes ATP Geopolitics and your family, your crew, all of ours, Gertis, Rick, and the list goes on and on. Shills, Mercado, all of these people that we're co-laboring with. I must be in Ukraine, and everybody around my circle, my family, my friends understand that. So probably like 6 weeks home, 4 weeks in Ukraine, 6 weeks home, 4 weeks in Ukraine, and keep it going back and forth like that. So that's the plan, brother.
Amazing, amazing. And what is it? I mean, you said you're going to release news on the fundraising for those who don't know, we're all fundraising together for some armored Land Rover medevac vehicles, Land Rover snatches, in order that some of these units who have little to nothing to medevac their injured soldiers from the front line, and we are hopefully going to reach the amount that's needed for 4 of these vehicles, armored, fully all singing, all dancing, even with anti-drone capabilities on board. And they will be delivered to the people who need them in different places on the front line by Greg himself and some others. And there'll be an update tomorrow night for the amount of money. But it is looking good, isn't it, Greg?
It's looking phenomenal. In fact, I received a message. So I'm trying. Okay, I got to take my hat off. I'm trying. I'm trying to get more organized, because I don't know how you guys do it when you have people actually viewing your videos. So for so long, I had me, myself, and I, and Zhenya, and 20 other people viewing my videos and with us from day one. But then all of a sudden, great things happened, partnering with you and Dr. Gertis, and then the dam busted. And now every day at 5 o'clock Eastern, while I'm in the States, I'll be live here. And that's pretty much about the same time I did it in Ukraine, to be honest, because I was trying to go midnight in Ukraine, which allowed me to get some sleep as well. But I don't know how you guys manage it all, because I like being very interactive. So I'm working with my mods right now. I'm working with my guy that helps all my technical. I always want to be able to see the chat, interact, answer questions, and trying to improve on that. So that's one of the major things working on right now. And we've got some good things in the works. Hopefully by tomorrow, we'll be able to do that, where actually my mods can push my comments. I know
it's just me, myself, and I. When I
me
like
too, buddy. And it's
I read, and
I admire you, because I know what you're having to do to multitask.
Yeah.
And now adding on top of it, every Friday we're going to be raffling 1 battle flag. So guys, if you're here from ATP Geopolitics, every Friday we're going to raffle 1 flag. And it is signed from the 0 line by Fish, right on the 0, while the war is going on. Additionally, it's also signed, and a piece of artwork is put on it from one of Fish's guys that work with him in the job that he does for the Ukrainian army, and very important job. And he actually drew Taras Shevchenko on the flag. It's amazing. So today our staff was shipping out all the flags that had been done so far. So a lot going on. And listen, we're at a point in time that if we don't focus, as we all do, on what's going on, we're going to wake up in a very different world in a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year.
As my viewers will know, I'm really up and down at the moment. There are some things that I'm just blown away that Ukraine are doing amazingly. And actually, although it's tough on the front line, and you've seen it much closer than I have, Greg, but on the front line, despite what they're up against in terms of the enemy, but also up against in terms of a lack of ammunition, a lack of equipment, the Ukrainians have done a phenomenal job and continue to do a phenomenal job. The amount of equipment the Russians are losing every single day on the front line, visually confirmed. This is not just pulling stats at your backside. You can argue about whether the general staff stats are accurate or not, but the visual confirmation of what is going on, Novomikhailivka, in Bakhmut, in Avdiivka, in Terny, all these places where the Russians are losing stupendous amounts of stuff. I'm like, right, the Ukrainians are doing such a good job, and I'm really buoyed by that. And then I look at the international political scene, and I'm like depressed. Then I'm looking at like the European ramping up military stuff, and I'm like quite positive. But obviously more can be done, and it's all very slow. But then I look at the information warfare that Russia is having inside Europe with the European political situation, and in the Republican Party in Congress in the US, and I'm deeply depressed. And so I'm up, down, up, down, up, down. Anyway.
I actually shared last night and it's the only, I only share this, guys. I don't trust anything other than visual confirmation. I don't trust Telegram. I don't trust Twitter. Please don't trust Twitter, whatever you do. I trust visual confirmation, and I personally prefer Institute of Study of War analyst versus anybody else, from my personal opinion. And I know there's great mappers out there, and I know you use Andrew Perpetua, and he does amazing job. He works nonstop, and I know he does good work, and there are others as well. And I utilize your maps as well, Johnny. But when I see the documentation come from Kyiv and it says, okay, here's the facts, visually confirmed numbers for March 2024, visually confirmed. That's the numbers I like to go off of. And yes, in March, we had a really good month. Now, I did remind people, when you see that Russia lost, damaged, or unfindable 500 BMPs, for example, and I'm making the numbers up right now, and Ukraine 200, okay? And you say, oh yeah, Ukraine just 200, Russia 500. Always remember, Russia's number that they have is way more. So you have to look at the ratio, but still, March overall, for an army that is undermanned, undersupplied, morale is struggling, let's be honest, because of the lack of supply and the chaos in the world, still really had a pretty good month overall.
I think you're right, and I think part of that is obviously the Ukrainians being really good at doing what they do, and part of it is Russians being quite suicidal, I think, like, or just throwing stuff forward in the kind of thoughtlessly, or maybe just knowing that they're going to lose an awful lot. As long as they just get one out of those 6 BMPs to drop their troops off at the tree line, then you know, that's the thing. And so,
well,
their calculation is just
remember also their warfare is much different. With that Soviet mentality of the meat grinder. And these are, to be quite honest with you guys, I read a lot of Russian stuff and I watch a lot of Russian stuff. This is the propaganda war that Russia is actually trying to infiltrate. We'll give you some inside info here now. That is actually the inside story that Russia is now trying to push back onto the Ukrainian soldiers to decrease their morale, accusing Syrskyi, and some of it is valid, of having some of that Soviet mindset of meat grinder. And Ukraine is not that type of army. They care about their soldiers, and but the propaganda war's real. And Ukraine, first and foremost, right now is looking at their need to save soldiers and prepare defensively so that they can once again be offensive.
And I think that in my opinion, the Ukrainians need to sit off in an active defensive role until they get supremely organized and enough stuff. So it's going to be a long time sitting back and watching the Russians do what they do at the moment. You can concede territory to them, let them grind away at that. You lose, Chaziv, you lose a number of these places, as long as you're exacting the kind of losses that we have seen in March, as you say, which has been a really ridiculously good month in terms of ratio.
Absolutely. Absolutely a great month.
If that can continue, then you can accept losing some of that territory, I would say. I mean, just to look at the map at the moment, this is what JR did for the mapping on my map. To remind people, there are 3 different maps. This is a synthesis of 3 maps together. And just to give you an idea of what kind of both sides are saying. Yet again, no changes on this entire front line from Kupiansk to Svatova to Crimea. So although there's been the occasional bit of movement in the Liman direction, nothing north of Liman has changed for something like, I don't know, is it 2 weeks? What are your thoughts on that northeastern area?
They're not concerned about that area right now. There are plenty of troops there, but right now they've got the mojo going west of Avdiivka. They've got the mojo going on Chasiv Yar on the eastern portions, and they've got the mojo going toward Karakova, and that's where they're putting their efforts, and Ukraine is having to respond to it.
It seems like there are 4 places really. There's Terny and Torska that's still really quite active. Then there's Bakhmut, as you say. Then there's Avdiivka, and then there's, I guess you can say, from Krasnohorivka to Novomikhailivka down here. And those are the 4 kind of major areas that seem to be where Russia are just throwing everything. Although in the last few days, I think it's calmed down a tiny bit in. Oh, sorry, I meant to say Terny and Torska up here. Yeah, Bakhmut and Avdiivka. Yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, in terms of the movement on the front line today, or in the last 24 hours, I should say, Suryat Map's saying there's a tiny bit of movement for the Russians going towards the quarry just south of Bilohorivka. This is an interesting area for those of my viewers here. You would have seen me do this 100 times. So if you look at the 3D imagery of the quarry here, you've got to the east on the right hand side of the map, so this side, you've got this high ground just here. I'm just going to try and see if I can get it. Yeah, so very high ground there, and then you've got this flat quarry, and then high ground over to the west, and that's broadly the same going further to the north, where you've got the town of Bilohorivka, high ground to the east and high ground to the west. This is not somewhere that's going to be easy for the Russians to take. Any grinding gains are going to get them to, so here arguably could be at the lip of that quarry, but then this is just suicide going across there. And
your knowledge really increased, and once again I give you kudos for going to the front lines. You now even more understand you look at it on the satellite there and you're seeing the elevation changes, but you've been close enough. You understand that there's some significant geographical and topographical issues for Ukraine, for Russia, first of all, in their offensive, and additionally some good things for Ukraine in their defensive positions.
Yeah, and it's also so important. And then you add in things like the weather. When I was out there, it was heavily snowing at times, or certain places, and that's obviously going to affect activity. Then rain is going to affect, mud is going to affect. And by the way, for those who haven't seen, if you go to my channel and go to playlists, the second part to my video diary of my time out in Ukraine, 10 days in Ukraine, it's called. Part 1 and part 2 are on the playlist there, so you can go and check that out.
Zhenya called me last night and says, "Did you see Johnny's video yet on the second part of 10 Days in Ukraine?" I said, "No, but I'm going to watch it." And he goes, "You need to." And he goes, "I'm really impressed. It was a really nice video. He did very good job with our operational security, and it was very well done." So kudos from Zhenya to you.
Oh, thanks, Jenny. That means an awful lot. Oh, thanks, mate. Because you worry, I don't really know what I'm doing. So, you stitch these things together in a completely amateur way and hope that it comes out okay. So that's really nice that you said that. Moving further to the south, we come to Bakhmut, and you can see there is Pin City around here. This is basically from two mapping sources, Deep State Maps and Suryat Maps, pro-Russian mapper, and we can see that around the west of Bakhmut, we have some fairly substantial gains, according to them, around the Bodanivka areas, just south of there, towards the point where they got up to in this attack towards Chasiv Yar the other day. But they were repelled. That hasn't been reversed, though. So Suryat Map still thinks the Russians have control over parts of Chasiv Yar. I don't think they probably do there, but they are creeping towards the idea, according to some analysts, is that they're trying to get a foothold in the forests just to the north of that part of Chasiv Yar, just south of Bodanivka.
So that's eastern Chasiv Yar. I can tell you right now, they're on the first two streets.
Oh, right. Okay. So
I don't care what that map says. My buddies are there. They're on the first two streets, and that section of Chasiv Yar is gone.
Well, in terms of bond to
oblivion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Russians are physically on streets 1 and 2.
Okay, so what was claimed in this attack, and this was about, I don't know, was it 3 or so days ago, was that they got here, they were, you actually saw it, there was a video of it, and they got hammered, but they were releasing people out into, so the idea when they have a big column of, say, 6 vehicles or something, they're just, the vehicles aren't to do the attacking, they're not shooting stuff, they are just taxis to get human beings into the positions to into either the Ukrainian positions or into, say, a forest or a windbreak or tree line or whatever, and as long as they can get enough people dropped off in any single attack, then they can do a second wave, a third wave, and add to those, and eventually there's enough people for them to consolidate and overcome, which is, I presume, what they've done here, which is subsequent attacks into Chasiv Yar to get that foothold there.
Johnny,
as you say.
Can you take us full screen?
Yep.
I'm getting in trouble from my chat.
Oh,
So I've
what?
just
Yeah.
put us side by side, you and I. So I've started because I do my streams at 5 o'clock, and tonight, guys, is a joint stream. So I'm not pushing my comments. Johnny and I are joint chatting, but I have learned that regardless if I'm joint streaming or not, the community still requires a patch. So tonight, the patch is actually going to be the Cremania patch. This was worn by Pete in the forest of Cremina. And this patch, guys, there are only 10 in the world. 10
Nice.
in the world. These were a special little patch that Pete's unit was given from the commander there early in the war in Cremina Forest. Well, a year into the war. And there was only 10. Pete had 2. He wears 1. If you look at Pete's uniform, he always has this patch on, and he gave me 1. So there you go, Cremina Forest.
Nice. And just to say
Fish is in the house. Hello, Fish. Fish is selling. Hello.
Nice one, Fish. Hello, Fish, my friend. iBag M says has gifted 5 Greg Terry experience memberships. So I presume that's thank you to iBag M.
Yes, thank you.
And Chris R 1250Gs has given a super sticker to Greg you as well. Now, if I've got this correct, Chris, he contacted me, and I think he has a vehicle he would like to get out to Ukraine. Are you the person that can help him with that if he needs to, like with advice on how to do that and whatnot?
So I'm assuming, Chris, I see the quid there. I'm assuming he is a UK guy.
Yeah, that's how I understand it.
Send me an email.
Okay.
And guys, you know, I need to apologize. I'm really doing my best. The amount of email I'm getting right now is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Really overwhelming. So I'm working through them every day. And in addition to that, doing the content for the 5 o'clock updates, talking to Pete nonstop. I've been talking to Harry Est for the last 30 minutes. It's working all morning, dealing with the Snatch project. I'm really doing my best.
I can only imagine, mate, because I struggle. Like I've got email lists, I've got emails as long as my arm, and
I know, and I feel so bad. I'm doing my best. Just I try and I do reply. Sometimes it takes me days and days because there's just so many. And at the same time, you know, I've got a son in high school. I'm home right now. I literally was watching his track meet. And I was already prepared for the stream, literally had it all fired up, walked right back in the studio and called into Johnny. But you guys do it. You all have family and kids and things you do in your lives, so you understand it. Just know we're doing our very best. Before we go on, I want to so the question is, Chris, please send me an email, say it's Chris, and speak about the vehicle there. And you can continue, Johnny. I saw that with Adam Rounds.
Yeah, just another one for you. Adam Rounds there with a super sticker for you. And then the final one for you. Well, there's plenty more, but just for now, Elaine Crossland from Canada. So giving you some Slava Ukraini. So there's a lot of Greg Terry love there.
Thank you, guys. Now, let me do this. You ready for some love? Let me share a screen with you, John.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to really like this. Let me find it here.
If you sort that out, I'm just going to go back.
You do your
to the map.
thing. You keep going.
Just going to go back to the map. So just to say that there is some gains to the north of that area where they're in the streets, as Greg says, in this area, no doubt there, maybe a little bit further on, who knows exactly. And also on this high ground to the north of Ivaniska, which is for me the key area that the Russians have taken. So the high ground north of Ivaniska, I think it's called Mount Baba, is the key, I think, to being able to do lots more. So it's the key to taking the whole of Ivaniska under their control, and it's the key to moving further into Ivaniska. So as soon as they start losing that high ground, for me, the idea was, the Ukrainians could be in a little bit of trouble. However, this is going to be the canal that
it's
comes
the green
down.
belt there.
Yeah, you got the green belt here, but the canal as well is a defensive line. There are certain areas, culverts, that actually JR on my map has put up there, has signified. So I'm just going to bring them up just so you can see, and then we'll go to what you were going to say. But these culverts and bridges that are marked here in purple. So the bridges are the ones with the purple pins, and the culverts, which are basically like these tunnels that the canal goes through. Now these would be the areas, because the bridges would be blown, but the culverts you can't really blow so much. So this would be the area that the Russians would want to get their vehicles across, I would think, if they were going to move their vehicles into Chasiv Yar at some point. And this is where I think they would try and cross the canal more seriously, because otherwise they'd have to get bridging equipment that would be easier to target. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
I think it's very accurate. So the information I have is Ivanivsky's already done completely, no matter what those maps are saying. And I'm 99.9. I called it last night on the live stream from guys I chat with. Ivanivsky's done. And it will be a battle for Chasiv Yar, but it's going to be similar to Bakhmut. It will be level to the ground, as it is already being done. And you have a very similar, if you guys want to see what's going to happen in Chasiv Yar, remember, history repeats itself until the Kremlin's defeated. And what happened in Bakhmut will happen in Chasiv Yar. Remember also, eastern Bakhmut had a river cutting through the city, a canal, a river to cross, and it was a hang up there, right there. It's the same story, guys, right there. They pushed to that, and then it was hell on the left side of the river, and until it fell. The same thing on a much smaller scale will happen in Chasiv Yar, unless Ukraine is supplied immediately and able to defend against this. So all of that's extremely accurate. That canal will be a challenge. So Johnny, if you would not mind, before we go further, would you please put up my screen share? Because I want to give a big shout out before I forget this. So guys, I know that's a little hard for you guys to read there, but I want to read it for you. There is the actual letter, and at the bottom of it is a check. It says the person's name and address, U.S. If you're smart enough, you can see the zip code there, but that's no big deal. That's the only thing you can see. I forgot to read that out. But Ukraine Aid, care of Bethel Life. That's our church, our nonprofit. Subject: donation for snatch vehicles in Ukraine. Message says, the enclosed check for $2,000 is to be used toward the purchase of snatch vehicles on the front lines in Ukraine, as described by Greg Terry. Thank you so much. FYI, I first heard of this work on ATP Geopolitics. When Greg was the guest on ATP Geopolitics, I then checked his website, and I also called the church, for validation with a smile. Thank you for being the umbrella organization for this incredible work. And then she signs it and her name. And right there below that was the $2,000 check. So Johnny, I'm not even going to call the person's name. I don't have permission. But if you're watching and you're on Johnny's channel or you're on mine right now, you know that's your letter and your check. Thank you very much. And a thank you to Johnny. Johnny, there's some proof in the pudding of our partnership working. And I think we almost got a tear out of you there.
It's a tasty
Are you cutting
pudding.
Onions?
It's a tasty pudding. I do. That's beautiful. That is really great. And that just shows the community coming together to be able to do, the right thing for the right people in this conflict. So that's wonderful. Whoever you are, awesome stuff. So thank you for that. And thank you for Greg, obviously, without which we wouldn't be doing these fundraising events. So,
and I have to say thank you to our staff and our pastors and our administrators and our administrative team and our secretaries. And guys, there's no way I could do this by myself. I mean, I'm shipping out today 6 flags and all these other things, raffle winners. They're going all over the world. All these different things are happening. And, I take it over to the church administrator and I say, hey, these need to be shipped out today all over the world. No problem. I got it. And then we have our staff meetings on Tuesday, and we have a large staff. We have a big organization, and the energy for people so happy to help Ukraine.
So this is a really interesting thing for me, Greg. Now, knowing how partisan and how divided Ukraine has weirdly become in the US, that frustrates the absolute heck out of me, right? How, given where maybe churches might sit politically in the US on average, right? I know there's all sorts of different flavors of churches, but I'm making assumptions about your church. How how have you taken people along with you with the support for Ukraine? What do you find that in your administrative team, everyone's really on board with it being the right thing in Ukraine and so on and so forth?
1,000,000% on board. And that comes from personal relationship. I've worked there for 26 years, 30 years in Russia, 26 in Ukraine. And people care. I mean, you realize Zhenya's been at my home. Zhenya's been here. Many Ukrainians have immigrated 10 years ago. We have a deep bond with the nation of Ukraine. And then this war goes crazy. So no, we're all in, man.
Are you? Is yours
you
a
understand
small
all
town?
in?
Is it a town community, a village, like a city, part of the city? What's your?
My town has 5,000 people in it. Our little metro, our urban area of our town, about 15,000. If you stretch down to the valley below us, you go up to about 40,000. About 100,000 total live in my county. But our church is the biggest around. I mean, it's large. We were, I don't know, maybe like, I don't remember what the numbers were for Easter Sunday, but I mean, we have a large church.
That's interesting. So yeah. Anyway, yeah.
And people lay down, listen to me, people lay down their political differences knowing what's right. Even if they're in our church and they're down the Trump toilet bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. And listen, I have no candidate in the race right now. I have zero. I'm not a Trumper and I'm not a Bidener. Yeah. I'm with like Darren Gertis. We're really struggling here because this is a challenge for us. Now, this is an inward challenge, but I have a problem. When you have a person selling a Bible to raise money, far as I'm concerned, you can go jump in the ocean.
Yeah.
Because let me wax eloquent here for the planets to align for you. First of all, I believe that God is sovereign and he has nothing to do with Donald Trump. And you're trying to sell yourself and sucker ignorant right-wing Christians who fall down the toilet hole of believing everything you say. And the Bible says that the word of God is not to be added to. And you then try to Americanize the Bible and put in the Constitution and put in all these factors and then sell it on the wings of Lee Greenwood's song, Go Jump in the Lake, Mr. QVC. Additionally, that is the most sacrilegious thing I've ever seen. Ever. Sorry. Secondly.
I don't want to stop you.
Secondly, I cannot support Joe Biden. I'm sorry. I'm looking for something, and I know we're 7 months away, and I don't know what's going to happen. But you're listening to a pastor here, guys, and I'm telling you right now, that's the most disrespectful, evil thing. And I don't care if people in here and want to debate me on that and disagree with me. Bring it on. Bring it on. I'm ready on this
interesting because I'm known for my rants, right? And you've just ranted awesomely. So nice one. Just to let people know, there is an absolutely fantastic video that I watched tonight that is one of the best videos I've watched recently, right? And it is Tim Miller and Adam Kinzinger. Both of these are Republicans who have rejected Trump, right? And interestingly, I think they're both going to vote Biden, but nonetheless, like, the discussion they have on this is one of the best. And actually, I think if you get a spare bit of time tomorrow while you're doing something else, Greg, this is really, really worth watching. There's a bit in the middle here that I was jumping up and down in my seat about. And I watch all my stuff on like 1.752 times speed just to get.
Well, you have the brain power to handle that.
but honestly, like this from the Bulwark, which is, a conservative channel, it is a great conversation about Ukraine aid and what the heck's going on, and also what people like Mike Gallagher and other people, Ken Buck, and these people who have kind of resigned, whether that's the right thing to do, should they've actually stood up and said, no, I'm going to try and change things from within, and then what are the reasons for that. Anyway, it's such a good video. So please, everyone, go and watch that. Going back to just the last bit on the map, if I may, Greg.
Yes, please.
Just popping down from back where we were, there's a little bit of an addition to just north of Badici towards Novokarnove. Now, if you see the Avdiivka salient, as we once knew it for so long, and then it got taken to here, and we've seen movement to the south of this river Derna that goes up like this, and there's high ground behind the Derna, and that's behind which the river the Ukrainians are setting up shop. But I don't know how long they'll stay there, because that's not their main defensive line. I think they've got bigger defensive lines further to the west. So the question is how long they're going to hold out there. And one of the threats is for the Russians coming down from the north, because the river kind of starts here. So if they can get further north of this railway line that goes up here, then they can come down to there. So this is the area that I think the Russians are going to be trying to capitalize on, and it's the area that I think the Ukrainians are going to have to defend. And the Russians might have made some gains here towards Keramik, towards Novokonyovo kind of area. So anyway, so some small gains there.
I told folks that's correct, and getting around the headwaters of that river, that's going to be key. So that's the focus point, like you're referring to. My major concern on this section of the map, because Semenivka, it will fall. It will fall.
They're supposedly the other side of the river there.
Yeah, it will fall. The problem here is Ukraine having, as you guys can see on Johnny's satellite version there, it's all farmland. And when we talk farmland, guys, it's hard to give you the scale of it. It's massive farmland and lots of nothingness between. But my major concern, to be honest, Johnny, is not really that. My major concern is Krasnogorivka.
Yes, I'm just going to get there.
Yep, that's my major concern. Yeah,
just to give you an idea of the size of that one field, that is 1.6 kilometers long.
Yeah, they're massive.
That is a big old field there. So now coming further to the south, we come towards you go past Pervomaisky. There is some footage out today that I don't know if I have that. Yeah, the Russians have raised their flag on the westernmost point of Pervomaisky. So that is to say that it is all under the Russian control here. But I guess that could mean, as far as here, I don't know. Before it gets to Netalyove, we'll see the mapping update tomorrow.
There's logic. There's logic, guys. Just zoom back in for that, Johnny. And how? Let me ask you a question. And I know we're not military strategists, but we do talk to them and we work with them hand in hand. And you've been here. Your opinion is 1,000,000 times more valid now. You've ran the front, and it was already valid. Now it's 1,000,000 times more valid. How do you defend that? How do you defend that little narrow strip?
Well,
without supply.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to be coming along this road, which will be under fire control. It's long and thin. It's difficult, and you're not really going to be supplying from up here. So
no, it's very difficult.
It's going to be really difficult, especially when on this side the Russians have got all of this, all of the area to the north of the water course here. So I think it is a case of the Russians are going to keep going until you get to Netalyove. We'll have to see what happens there. And then when we come further to the south, I've been quite impressed that around Krasnohorivka, and I know it's somewhere you want to talk about, but I've been impressed that for about the last week and a half, I don't know, is it that long? The Ukrainians have managed to stall the Russians around Krasnohorivka, which was looking a bit dodgy here. Well, it still is looking dodgy. It was looking like Novomerkalivka, which is further to the south, that the Ukrainians have been unable to stop the Russians at. But actually, the Ukrainians have stalled the Russians here to the south of Krasnohorivka, particularly where there's this mine around there that went backwards and forwards between the two sides for some time. Then they apparently got into the southern streets of Krasnohorivka and then have been pushed back. Now, it has been on the news today, Krasnohorivka. Russian soldiers have managed to enter Krasnohorivka after heavy casualties have been cleared by the Ukrainian force and retreated after clearing because of Russian airstrikes. I don't know who that is that they're talking about retreating, whether that's the Ukrainians having to retreat because of airstrikes, but it's looking like Krasnohorivka is the site of some pretty fierce stuff going on at the moment. Is this somewhere where you want to talk about, mate?
So the information I have is actually a little different than that, and I once again I have it that right basically where your mouse is up a little bit, Russia's right there already.
Yeah. Which they did get into about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, but then were subsequently pushed out. But
they're there. The bottom line is here, guys. This is a city pre-war, 16,000 people. I talk about this city all the time. I told people that after throughout this war, you've had cities that have been famous. unfortunately become famous. Mariupol was the first one, and then you had several Donetsk and Lysychansk and Bakhmut, and now it's Chasiv Yar, and of course Kharkiv, the way it's being bombed now with the glide bombs and the shelling. But this city right here will be another famous. You may not know about Krasnogorivka right now, but you will.
Yeah, and they're using aviation there by the looks of it as well, which is, you know, how they seem to be making most of their gains these days. Like Avdiivka was largely a result of the guided glide bombs. These aviation bombs are the bane of the Ukrainians, and I know that Zelensky recently said they're working on ways to counter those bombs. But the best way to counter those bombs is striking the blooming airfields in Russia, and that's why it's so important. Like for me, this whole war, like I've said to you a million times, I've said it to my viewers a million times, it's a relatively easy war to win. You give them enough of the right stuff, just loads of it. And I'm just absolutely flabbergasted that the success of the cruise missiles, the Scalp EG and the Storm Shadow cruise missiles, is so obvious that I don't understand why MBDA has not had orders in right from the first moment we gave them those cruise missiles and said, right, we just need to give Ukraine 1,000 of these, so we're going to put an order for 1,000 in. I know it's going to cost a lot of money, but everyone else can send them tanks and whatever else. We're going to make cruise missiles and just make a ton of these cruise missiles, and then say, and yeah, do you know what? You can fire them into wherever you like, and you can try and hit some of those air bases if you can. We just need to give Ukraine every chance to use distance munitions to stop Russia taking off and releasing cruise missiles and releasing aviation guided glide bombs. That's
Andrew Mercado's in my chat, and Andrew, amazing work for Ukraine and partnering with us right now in the Snatch Project. And I'll actually be on Andrew's tonight sometime. And now we're playing video games together. Surprised them that I could actually play.
It's got some skills.
Andrew, oh yeah, Andrew was confirming what you said, that Ukraine did push it back on southern Krasnogorivka, and they did. It's just those first two streets right there.
Yeah.
Pretty confident Russia has presence on those first two streets. So thank you for that, Andrew. Let me get a couple questions here that's coming through my Discord. Oh my gosh. I start talking about Andrew and then I say my Discord. I don't have Discord. I mean, I have Discord, but I got enough to do. I do have a Discord, but I didn't make it public. Ma Rose saying we need a smile. Can you share Pete's latest video? I am sharing Pete's latest video tomorrow night with Professor Gertis, and also maybe Pete will be with it. We're working on that. Can you add the coffee pop-up thingy? Tonight, I cannot add the coffee pop-up thingy because I'm running this live stream through Johnny's software. But tomorrow night, Professor Gertis will be running through my software, and we'll have the coffee pop-up thingy. And that's what I'm going to rename that input, coffee pop-up thingy. I really like that. So it'll be back. I would say another question from RL. I would say the Republican voters have the biggest responsibility now because every single one of them can do 2 vote difference. That's very, very accurate. Great statement. Linda S. Are the UA military gaining ground anywhere? I only hear of losing, which is very concerning. We actually done pretty good over the last week or so, actually in Robotny, holding out on that southern side. I need a reason to drop Streamlabs OBS, dude. All right, Andrew, I'll hook you up.
Just talking about Robotna, this is coming from Null Reports. Like I stated 2 days ago, the line of contact has changed near Robotna. Russian retook some positions towards Robotna and is gradually trying to push the Ukrainian forces, says the Zaporizhia City Regional Council Deputy Lyshchenko. That is, I think, part of the course in that area. The Russians have been trying basically to push the Ukrainians out, and the Ukrainians have just done a really good job of holding on there in a way that I wasn't expecting them to. Me either. I wasn't wholly sure it was worth them holding on there, but actually, you know, if you want to keep Orikhiv, then you might as well keep them fighting down here rather than on the edge of Orikhiv.
Tomorrow night with Prof. Gertis, I will be showing video. I was going to do it tonight, but we've got so many other things we're talking about tonight. I'm going to show it tomorrow night. I'm in Orikhiv, and you'll be able to see it and hear it tomorrow night. So Roboltny is good overall. And the other place that I would say is the best right now is up towards Kupiansk, to be quite honest, and the forest up there towards Liman. Ukraine's doing actually a really good job there, holding back. They're not advancing, guys, but they're holding back well here, and it's very important. Once again, we come to the same story. We are we're desperate for supply. It's desperate for supply, and hopefully it comes through. Johnny,
I would say in terms of like expecting the Ukrainians to take ground, I don't think you can expect the Ukrainians to take ground for another. I know there's talk that Budanov is saying that they could have a counterattack or a counteroffensive this year, could have one in the summer. I think that would be unlikely unless something massive changes. I don't think you can expect huge any land really to be retaken, apart from maybe some very localized bits and pieces here and there. I think it's all going to be Russia taking land, and the question is how much can the Ukrainians make the Russians bleed for doing so at the moment.
And once again, every day that is delayed, other things are happening. Remember, there is an enemy. And this is a good place for me to insert this. Production, for example, I covered last night, 30 Shaheeds a day is what Russia was producing for about 11K a year. And for 2024, they're pushing it to 87 per day, which is 30K a year. Now, guys, I'm telling you, Johnny's been there with these things flying around. He can tell you it's a problem. If they can keep 30 in the air a day, it's a problem. Also, Russia increasing their personal shell production 2.1 million to 2.4 million of 152s and 122s year 24 over 23. In addition, it came out today that North Korea is looking to push even different types of supply into Russia to test in Ukraine. And I recommend you guys jump over to Gertis's video from yesterday. He talked about China's duplicity in supplying Russia is changing face a little bit. They're pushing the envelope on how they're supplying Russia. So there's lots of things that the world needs to respond to as far as supplying Ukraine, and it needs to happen. It needs to happen yesterday. I just ask you this, and I don't know the answer because I've not been checking it today, but we're April the 9th. Remember, it was supposed to have been the day that back on the floor, we're going to be talking about Ukraine aid. How'd that go?
That's what some people are asking in the live chat. So what exactly did Mike Johnson do today?
The point being, how did that go?
Square root of NAFL. Yeah.
Correct. One last comment that came through, Johnny. Do you have this on your maps on from KP? I don't want to call people's names because I don't have permission, but unless I push it through. So this is from Ken. On the map, I would like to see where the Ukrainians are building their defensive fortification lines.
So I don't have this
overlay
on my map, but I don't have the overlay, but I will go and see if I can find some from elsewhere because I have shown it before. The only thing I haven't said yet is that Novomykhailivka down here, the Russians are making gains both through and to the north of that town, and that is,
yes.
I think, to me, that's the biggest worry on all the areas in the front line at the moment is Novomykhailivka, because I think it's a kind of, as I keep saying to my guys, it's a domino. It's one of the big dominoes that can lead on to the fall of this whole larger area, which I think is important for hammering Volnovakha. It's important for being able to hit Mariupol with HIMARS. I think if you lose that area, which is what Novomykhailivka is a key to, I think that's a problem for you.
I would agree, and I can answer Ken's question with a generality. I see. And Johnny has seen this also in the South. Typically, these high-level fortifications that Ukraine should have built a long time ago that are being built anywhere right now are between 30 and 70 kilometers from the zero line. In general, 30 to 70 kilometers. So just look at the front line and also look at the border up near Sumy and Chernihiv and just back it up 30 to 70 kilometers. And that's where these major fortifications are going in. They can't get any closer to make them due to drones and artillery. So that's a good answer for you there. Johnny, I have some questions for you, and
Yep.
when you finish looking, I would just like
No,
to get.
yeah, go for it. Just go for it now. I'll
Okay, so
multitask.
is Chassevier in trouble and soon the zero line? Yeah, oh yeah, Chassevier's in trouble. All right, here we go. Let's play a little game here. We're gonna play a game, and we're gonna have a little bit of Jeopardy time with Jonathan M.S. Pearce, legendary philosopher, atheist extraordinaire, who has ran the front lines of Ukraine. Now going to demonstrate his ingenious ability to process information and tell you what's going on in the world. Here we go, Johnny.
Hit me.
Your thoughts on energy infrastructures being more of a target now for Russia against Ukraine?
So I've spoken a lot about this recently, and I think to link it to what you're saying with what Darren Gerdes was talking about, I think the Chinese, and I said this a year or so ago, that I have a feeling the Chinese, if they're going to do anything, will start swapping intelligence with the Russians or giving intelligence to the Russians, and that is one of the biggest threats. So one of the asymmetrical advantages Ukraine has had throughout this whole war has been the brilliant intelligence being given by the US, by the French, by the British with their military satellites, and giving them time-sensitive data so that they can really effectively hit targets. And the Russians were just unable to do that. The Russian satellites are not very good, and most of them are out of date and are flying around but beyond their sell-by date and possibly aren't even effective anymore. And so they have really needed help for high-resolution imagery. And I think the Chinese are providing that to them. And indeed, that is now what we are being told by US intelligence. So with that, and with their usage of ballistic missiles much more, and their Kinzhaos and their best missiles, and together with a better strategy, I think they're thinking better. You put all of those things together, and they are doing more with less. So they are crippling the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Better 2 years later with fewer missiles, better shots than they were 2 years ago. They were like throwing everything into Ukraine. They didn't really have very good intelligence, and they were trying to hit things that they thought were there, or trying to hit things without very good targeting, and missiles went into lots of apartment buildings and so on and so forth, and it wasn't that effective, and the energy infrastructure withstood the winter. This time they waited till after winter, oddly, but now have been really effective at taking out the energy infrastructure due to all of those reasons. So we need to take out the airfields where they're releasing those. We need to take out the Ukrainians need to take out Novorossiysk. Actually, to be fair, the Black Sea Fleet hasn't been sending those missiles, but they would have been had they not been hammered. But anyway, the airfields, Novorossiysk, and they also need to just be hitting Russian energy infrastructure themselves.
Johnny, you're supposed to start it with a what is. It's Jeopardy, okay?
We don't have that over here, although I think we've just had, after the amount of time you guys have had Jeopardy, we have just taken on the license.
I can tell you guys this, okay? And to summarize Johnny's analysis there, what I can tell you right now is Ukraine is having once again to deal with rolling blackouts, and it's quite significant. They are at a major energy deficit right now, and they are having to import where they were just exporting a month ago.
80% of non-nuclear
of TPPs
of power plants, so hydroelectrics as well.
Yes,
80% of non-nuclear power plants have been hit in the last few weeks. Like that is how much.
So just think about that, guys. 80%. I mean, just think about it. And they're fighting a war. Okay, question number 2 is your opinion on Slovakia, the new president, Pellegrini, who definitely is at the minimum a pro-Kremlin leaner, who now teams up with Prime Minister Fico.
So Robert Fico, the prime minister, has been a big defender of Russia, essentially, with his coalition. He is in charge of the Smer party, who's kind of centre-left, but they're not. They're just a nationalist populist party. He's in bed with the far right and another party in Slovakia, and they have stopped all military aid going from Slovakia to Ukraine. They have still allowed their military industrial base to make equipment if it's bought, but they're not giving military aid. And there was the previous president was a female, a green activist actually, who
Mhm.
was really good at still supporting Ukraine. Her term's come to an end, and unfortunately, you've got hit one of his lackeys, basically, or someone who's closely associated with him in his party, getting into president, getting actually a wider margin than was expected after the first vote. And apparently, someone was telling me that there was a bit of bribery going on, saying that firefighters and farmers would get something or other if they voted for him. So there's some kickback. So it was all a bit dodgy anyway. As a result, he got in the end a better margin than was expected, and that's really bad because all the Russians need to do, and this is a really major thing that people need to remember, they don't need control over everyone, the Russians. They just need control of a few people that have inordinate power. So in Congress in America, if they can control someone like Mike Johnson through Marjorie Taylor Greene, through Trump, through Putin, right? If they can do that, then they can bring the Congress to a standstill. If they can control Slovakia and Hungary, then they can bring the EU to a standstill in terms of unanimous voting, and they can stop aid getting passed to Ukraine. And the EU then has to think about ways around this. This is a problem, and it's another indication that Russia are exceptionally good at the information game. They're exceptionally good at undermining European democratic institutions, mechanisms, and movements. And this is a worry. I am so petrified about a changing Europe. I'm so petrified about the European elections in June for the members of European Parliament. And I'm so petrified about what Russia is able to do in the information space.
Well, we called it, Peter Pavel actually called it. And let me tell you guys this, Melania Trump is not Slovakian. She is Slovenian.
Yeah.
They do sound similar, but they're different nations. My problem with Slovakia is it has a border with Ukraine, and we need, at least at the minimum, friendly borders. We have enough issues with the struggles sometimes with the Polish border. The Belarusian border, of course, is basically Russia, the Russian border, and then the occupied border, and then you have Transnistria. Ukraine is having the minimization, and then you have Hungary with Orban. So you have Romania and Moldova and Poland. That's it of the friendly borders, guys. And I'm not saying that Hungary's not, going to help a little bit, or Slovakia is not going to help a little bit. That's not what I'm saying. But at the minimum, we know Orban right now, and they have their own issues in Hungary. They're in the pocket with Putin and Trump, and we know that Slovakia now is at least pro Putin leaning with their current leadership. So it's not a positive. That's all I'm saying.
That's horrible.
Keep our eyes on that.
And the other thing, Bulgaria, who are a massive supporter of Ukraine in terms of what they've actually done for Ukraine since the beginning of the war. At the beginning of the war, they were providing 1/3 of Ukraine's ammunition. So they still make an awful lot of Soviet-era ammunition, and apparently they are being infiltrated by Russian information
Big time.
attacks. And in fact, the president, is it the president or prime minister? The president's just stepping down, ending the coalition, citing corruption and Russian influence in so doing. So Russia are succeeding.
This is one of the things I keep hammering, and I will continue to hammer it. I have 30 years working in Russia, and they've been preparing for this a long time, guys. A long time. And they are in DC. They are in capitals around the world. Russia and China basically control Africa. Russia very active in the Middle East, the Far East. And people want to minimize it, and they want to call them stupid, and they want to call them orcs, and they want to call them all these things. There is a difference, guys, between the human meat grinder they send to the front lines and this strategy of manipulation and strategy of subversion. If you go back to 1984, they know what they're doing, and to shortchange them puts us at the negative. Never. I learned to play chess we adopted a Russian daughter. Did you guys know that? Oh, did I just drop some info on you guys on Johnny Pearce's channel? I have friends and family I consider all over Russia that are good people that hate what's happening in their nation and hate the war in Ukraine. Hate it. So I have my own opinions. and they're complex. But I was taught to play chess by Russians. The daughter was a serious chess champion, mega. When she came to Pittsburgh here in the United States, and she joined the chess team, the high school, went down to the University of Pittsburgh for this massive chess tournament. And when she walked in, it was an open tournament, and she was 15 years old. And walked into the tournament, and she was, because of her ELO rating and her FIDE rating, she was professional. She was 2,400 something at that time. If you know chess, you know that's up there. She was placed against the Pittsburgh City champion, had like a 24 something rating, at 2,400, and went into the meeting, and I stood off at the side. And she sat down at the table, little 15-year-old girl, and the opponent didn't show up. The clock's running. And the person finally came in and wouldn't even shake her hand, says, "I'm not here to play children." That was his quote. And she looked at me and she said, in Russian, "Do you want me to destroy him?" I said, absolutely. Johnny, she sacrificed her bishop 14 moves ahead. Listen, I'm telling you guys the truth here. 14 moves ahead. Sacrificed her bishop. And the guy she was playing, the Pittsburgh champion, looked at her and says, "What a stupid move. How do you have such a high rating?" And she said to him in perfect English, "In 14 moves, you will know when I checkmate you." And in 14 moves, it was shock emot, mate. He got up and ran out of the building. My point being, the analytics there of thinking ahead a few moves. I just hope the world is trying to think ahead a few moves on the political side, on the infrastructure side, on the what happens tomorrow, what happens in a week, what happens in a month, what happens if we let Ukraine fall. You have to see that, and I hope it's happening in all of this stuff. You know, hello, my name is Mike Johnson, and we are on vacation. But on the 9th of April, when we reconvene, we will be discussing Ukraine, and we're going to come up with a plan to give them supply. Guys, they're already off today. It's 6:05. They're probably eating dinner. What has happened?
Nothing. And, Russia, meanwhile, are busy trying to reverse Gorbachev and basically moving back to, we are entering a new Cold War era, which is actually a hot war presently. And I think we just need to get a grip on our history and an understanding of where Russia are coming from and what they're trying to achieve and how they're going about it. And meanwhile, we're sitting back. Europe, I think, is waking up, but it's trying to turn a tanker, and that takes time and a lot of money. And there are a lot of elections going on this year, and so we'll have to see if Europe can try and can somewhat succeed in plugging the US hole that's there at the moment.
Johnny, a question for you in my chat. For me, but I don't know the answer. Maybe you do. From Sniper Freak, did you hear that Estonia is sending 1 million shells to Ukraine?
I've not heard they're sending them. So the Czech initiative is that they have found and paid for 800,000, moving to 1.5 million, depending on whether there's money. There's a difference between money they've received in the bank and pledges.
No, Estonia.
Yeah, I know. And
okay.
and at the moment, Czech initiative is trying to get the difference between the amount of money they got and the pledges, make sure they actually get that money, and then more for to fill it up to sort of 1.5 million that I think they found. And then Estonia have come along and said, we found another 1.2 million, I think,
Okay.
Which is fantastic, which means that this is all out there on a global marketplace. And the amount per shell is also fairly reasonable. I think it averages at something like $2,000 a shell or something like that. But it's not, the Estonian ones haven't been procured, haven't been paid for it. They have
coming
just,
in the chat and now they need money.
They've just found them. They just need the money. But again, it's I think what people are saying is that money needs to come from the EU rather than individual states. So it's probably easier. The EU that manages an awful lot bigger purses than individual countries then goes, here's the money for that, and we can use the European Peace Facility to do that.
Your guy JR with the question, Greg, how did you end up learning Russian? When I first went there in 1994, I was 21, and I had a really good propensity to learn a second language, third language actually, because I was speaking Spanish pretty well at that time. And it just kind of fell into place. And 30 years later with immersion, and I've had teachers and spent so much time there, it's just natural now to speak Russian. I speak real Russian, not school Russian or technical Russian. I speak Russian that the people speak because it's from the immersion and the. So that's a lot of work. That's how you learn it. A lot of work. JP, I have one more question for you. I know we're already at an hour and 8 minutes tonight. I have one more question for you, and I know people out there, they were already asking this in my chat before the stream started, and I think it's a good place for us to end. David Cameron visiting Donald Trump. Now, he did go and meet with Blinken as well. I want to be fair. I also want to be fair and say that there is precedent for this historically, where world leaders or foreign secretaries would meet with presidential candidates who have secured the nomination, for example, and had the potential to be the next president. So there is precedence. But your thoughts on this? First of all, David Cameron is going to fail. Okay, let me explain to you guys really quickly why David Cameron wasted his time. Are you ready? Because Donald Trump has a memory. And Donald Trump remembers when David Cameron slashed him and told him basically that, and I have the quote here somewhere. BBC had the quote, where basically he was trash. Let me look it up instead of misquoting it.
I think my thoughts on that are that
it doesn't. Sorry to interrupt you. The point being is, it doesn't matter what David Cameron would say to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, first of all, he's not going there. Okay, he's not going there, and secondly, he's definitely not going to show any grace to David Cameron. My opinion.
Yeah. I don't think anyone was under any illusions. I said this before he went, and when I was telling the news to my viewers that he was going to go. He's not going to change any minds. What he might do is have an effect on people around Trump, maybe that might hear some arguments, that because people live in their own bubbles and they don't really interact with, and that will include these people. I was thinking today, how is it that Marjorie Taylor Greene goes to Congress and splurges her opinions? Does she have any advisors around her? But the advisors are in that same information bubble, and so therefore there's no corrective to they almost don't hear what they need to hear ever, and so they just hear their own little echo chambers. And that would be the same for Trump and his advisors. So and apparently Donald Trump, David Cameron was going to go there and not going to have his Diplo speak and just speak candidly. And there would have been hopefully people that are listening to that, but it's also about the wider optics. So it's about Americans realizing that the foreign secretary and previous prime minister of another country that is one of your strongest allies is going to Donald Trump to say you've got it wrong. And so therefore there are some people who are going to have to deal with that. Now, I think that these American voters and American politicians like MTG, like Matt Gaetz and Paul Gosar and Trump himself, I don't think are ever going to change their opinions. And the problem with Trump is that he I don't think like Zelensky, because Zelensky didn't give him what he wanted when he asked Zelensky for the dirt on Biden, but otherwise you won't get the Javelin missiles. So I think it goes back to when Zelensky was first president, and essentially Trump tried to blackmail him for information and he didn't give it. And I think part of where Trump's positioning is on Ukraine, or a large amount, possibly all of it, is that memory and being stilted by Zelensky. And so therefore he's like, well, screw you, Zelensky. And he loves Putin and he loves strong men. But I think David Cameron...
Michael Michaels was putting it in there. I've got it now. You know, first of all, we all will agree that Donald Trump is a narcissist. And I think that's just a fair description. He remembers Mr. Trump's proposed temporary ban on Muslims entering. He called it divisive, stupid, and wrong. And then I think if he came to visit our country, I think I'd unite us all against him, Lord Cameron said at the time when Mr. Trump was not yet elected. Mr. Trump replied by warning he may not have a very good relationship with Mr. Cameron. In his memoirs published in 2019, Lord Cameron further said that he found it depressing that Mr. Trump could win an election and that it was due to his protectionist, xenophobic, misogynistic interventions. I got news for you. Donald Trump remembers every word of that.
Yeah.
Every word.
But I think he had to do that. I mean, you can't give up and just say
why.
I think for the, like I said, for the larger optics and because you got to try. Yeah.
Fair enough.
You know, as also if you read around it. So in this article, I think it mentions it. This is, and I think this is where Macron's at the moment, and I think it's where a lot of people are at, is that let's find it. I think he said basically he realizes that that this is super important. You talk for a second. I'm going to find the right quote.
Well, I see the comment, Paul Glosson, they're kissing the ring. It's exactly right. And I don't know. I very well could be wrong on this. I do spend a lot of time in Ukraine. I spend a lot of time on this every day. And we all work together for the same end result. But I'm just telling you right now, this is not the way.
Yeah,
this is not the way. I understand, and I respect. He needs to try. I respect that. But the bottom line is Trump thinks that he can end the war in Ukraine in one day by pushing the agenda that Ukraine give up some of its eastern territory in Crimea. What Mr. Trump doesn't understand is that is not going to happen.
No.
That's not going to happen. And if it does, I know that's a bad statement to make. It's not going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to happen voluntarily. Let me make it that way.
Yeah.
But if it is forced, we get to such a place that it's forced, we will be in a different place in 5 or 10 years that will even be worse. Russia must be defeated. And it's like when I was in Russia and I went to the Orthodox service, and I was in the Orthodox church. There was some friends and family, and it was pretty, and the golden icons and all. I try to be fair, guys. I always will be fair. It was pretty, and the service was nice, and not my cup of tea. Okay, Johnny, and for sure not your cup of tea. And then at the end, the priest comes out, and everybody runs to the right side wall. And I had never been in an Orthodox service, so the little grannies I was with go, Greg, come on, stand against the wall. So I run over to the side of the wall with the little grannies, and it's all babushkas in there, okay, and dedushkas. And we're standing against the wall, and they start marching forward. And I asked them, I said, what are we doing? They go, well, you have to come up, and the priest will bless you. I said, oh, okay. So, of course, not my theology, not my cup of tea. We going up through the line, and they're so happy. The priest is blessing them, and every one of them kisses his ring. I come up to the priest. I stand in front of him, and he knows I'm not Russian. He looks at me and goes, no Russian. I said, no. He goes, may I bless you? English, may I bless you? I said, sure, I'll take a blessing. I won't ever turn down a blessing. And he goes, oh, I said, well, thank you for the blessing there, brother. And he goes, sticks it into my face. I look at him, and then I speak in perfect Russian. I draw the line there. I don't kiss other men's rings. You have a good day, sir. Dude,
Ouch.
he smiled. No, he was cool. He was smiling and laughing. He goes, okay, good guy. You know. But the point being, it's almost as if, you know, I really have a problem with this, and maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I have a problem with this. Donald Trump is not the president, and I don't care about precedent. And I understand it's there and it's the right thing to do and all this. He's not the president. Joe Biden is the president. Whatever you guys think about that, that's your opinion. But I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah,
and I just don't get it.
Yeah, and the idea is that he feels so strongly. He's very emotional about that, and I'm happy actually that David Cameron recognizes the importance of Ukraine. I think it's so in the radar of people that matter in Europe at the moment, like Ursula von der Leyen, Emmanuel Macron, even Olaf Scholz, even though he's not giving the tourist, but he recognizes it, and David Cameron, and I think that's good news. And the way I understand it, even because I watch a lot of US news, I was having a word with Thierry, who's a real strong supporter of the channel, and he was saying, like, why is Biden not enough? You know, why are the Democrats not talking about this enough? And actually they are. When you watch as much US news as I do, Ukraine actually comes up an awful lot. But the problem is they just can't do anything, because the more they have a go at the people who are intransigent, like Mike Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump, the more they will entrench. And this is kind of the argument you might have for David Cameron. The more he goes to try and convince Trump, the more Trump's going to entrench his original decisions and beliefs. And so the more that the Democrats overtly criticize the Republicans on this, the less likely the Republicans are to actually, the more partisan it becomes. And so I think that the Democrats, like Biden, recognize that, unfortunately, it's like this paradox. We want to talk about it all the time. We want to shout about it. It's so freaking important. But the more we do, the more partisan it appears. This appears then like a Democrat thing rather than a bipartisan thing. That's the paradox.
I completely agree. It's just, hey, so time will tell. That's what I tell everybody on my streams, is time will tell. Be patient. We are 7 months away from the election here in the U.S., but I go back to Peter Pavel. Peter Pavel said Ukraine has until November 2024, and at that point, it's most likely over, or the world will change significantly depending on not only American politics, but also what is happening throughout Europe. And the man is turning out to be very prophetic, as we just witnessed the change in leadership in Slovakia and the rumblings in Bulgaria. So pay attention, step by step. Can't predict it, but we'll see what happens. So Johnny, thank you. I know you're going to do some super chats and thank yous, and
yeah, there's lots for you. These are yours. One of your ones. Angels match my contributions. I know they are here already, and that good guy Paul is here. So that's, you know, they exist.
Awesome. Thank you.
Papa Dutch saying it's already a different world. Kind of what you were just saying there. So
yes.
Richard Bennett for you, gifting 5 Greg Terry Experience memberships. Awesome.
Thank you, Richard.
And K Bell matches. You know they exist.
Awesome.
Linda H gifting 5 Greg Terry Experience memberships. And Mary M, thank you, Mary. That's really kind of you. Is that the Mary I've been having a big argument with about Christian nationalism as a movement, and not as a pejorative, or as me inventing a term? I don't know if that's you, Mary, but anyway, thank you very much for
it's a cult.
Your support. That yeah, there's a yeah. Anyway, Mr. Lion Dust, thank you very much for your gifted 5 memberships. It's really
hey. Pause. You see that right there, guys?
Yep.
Ordained. Anybody want to be married or buried? I'll take care of you for free. Ordained. Listen to me. It's a cult.
Yes.
God is not American. God is not white. I'm sorry. I'm getting into it because I'm hating it. It's destroying our country and our world. It's destroying it.
This is, I have very different beliefs to you, but we agree on an awful lot, including kind of that idea. If I was a Christian, then I would be saying the same sort of thing as you there.
We'll leave it right there.
Yeah, Mark Bisque, who is such an amazing supporter of both the Snatch
Yes.
movement and also just my channel in general. Thanks, Mark. Now this is quite depressing, I guess, what he's saying here. So this is Mark, who's of Ukrainian origin living in Canada at the moment. I'm worried that Ukraine will lose this war because Russia is willing to go to those dark, evil places of humanity that we cannot. They feel no pity. They feel no remorse. They have no conscience. That may be their ultimate weapon, and there's definitely something in that. Is that we play by the rule, Ukraine play by the rules of international warfare. By and large, there's always going to be slips here and there. Russia systematically do not. I've seen more videos of POWs being executed by Russian troops than I care to mention. I had
a tough time last night, Johnny, on my live stream.
Mm-hmm.
And I took you there. The Crinky guys. We lost 4 of them, and they were just killed. And I know people have seen the video and all that jazz, but these are people that you potentially had coffee with, were executed.
Yeah, I saw 3 Crinky people.
Yeah,
that's the last one I was
4
talking about.
killed totally, 3 were murdered. We knew those guys. You probably had coffee with some of those guys.
It's absolute shocking. And yeah, Russia are prepared to do that. It's part of what they do. It's almost doctrinal. And as I keep saying on my channel, it's so blatantly obvious to me who the good guys are and who the bad guys are in this. And if you aren't making that same moral calculation as I am, then there's something going on. There's something. We are operating on different moral frameworks, like fundamentally morally intuitive. You can talk about different. I could bore you about the philosophy of morality and all the different moral frameworks you can use, but there's something to be said about ordinary morality and moral intuitions that we all just generally have, right? And if you are overcoming those to think that Russia are the good guys, then you're too far gone.
Did you just say you could bore me with this deep conversation?
I could bore you, yeah.
Guys, let me just remind all of you that it was just mid-February that Johnny was riding in the back seat, sitting behind Zhenya. I had Pierre behind me, and we drove thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers to visit the front line. And Johnny, all he did was talk.
I was so restrained. Can I just tell you?
And listen, Zhenya and I would look at each other, and we would stare. And we would say, what is he talking about? No, it was wonderful. We've had all of these conversations, and they were fantastic, to be honest.
Thank you very much to Cats, or thank you for Greg. Greg, no patch on your microphone. That's how long ago he or she gave you that.
Thank you, Cats.
And Don Konu 23, Slava Ukraini, can't stay long, but wanted to say hello. Sorry, you've probably gone by the time we've actually got around to
Johnny, I would like to give you a reference here. Do you know what Dunk on You 23 means? I'm going to teach you some.
No, but I soon will.
That is a reference to Michael Jordan. Dunk, basketball term, on you, number 23. You now are an American sports legend.
Who is Michael Jordan?
Exactly.
I do know. He's also dunked on you. He set himself up for the anyway.
He's a good guy, very supportive of our channel. Thank you, Dunk on You 23.
And Wee Bit Furry super sticker, thank you very much for on behalf of Greg there for a super sticker from Wee Bit Furry. And indeed, Robert Lockhart for your channel as well. So that's really very generous. Sir Sporkius Thy Tactical. Jonathan, I'm American. I watch your news every day. Thank you for being so...
You getting the American love there, brother.
That's some self-sacrifice there. No, I appreciate you sticking by me, even though I do bang on about American politics way too much. Linda S giving you
Australia
5 Greg Terry experience memberships.
Thank you, Linda.
Kippy Blanc fella, which means white.
Nafo. Yep. Thank you.
White cap, just in case you want to know. And then Julian Rossiter. 10 ATB Geopolitics memberships. Thank you very much, Julian. You are a wonderful supporter of the channel. Metzi, for you, a super sticker for Greg Terry. Sorry, there are a few more of these. Not sorry, but thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mertzi, if you're still in here, Mertzi doesn't live too far from me. So we are going to have a cup of coffee together.
That'd be nice. That's lovely.
Yes.
Robert Pitt says, here's to another pack of Coronas. I'm actually having Sol tonight, but other beers exist as well. And thank you very much.
Jonathan, are you drinking beer?
I'm might be.
You mean I'm actually on a live stream with a man who's drinking beer?
Yeah.
Well, I'm drinking Pepsi.
I would expect nothing else from you.
Yeah.
I know you too well for that.
Yeah.
Inga Stava, some Norwegian love there. Thanks for the content, JP and Greg. Thank you, Inga. Really kind of you. Tremors giving some Australian love there. Came in at Greg's rant. Pack your bags and come down to Australia, Greg. Our politics aren't great, but they're better than America's. Well, there you go. Thanks, Tremors. And Adam Rounds there with the super sticker for you. As there is another Linda S gift of 5 Greg Terry memberships, and we're almost there. Brian Ivy, who I think about more than many of people, because whenever I have big rants about republicanism, as a Republican he is, who's not a big fan of Trump, I always think about how's he going to react to the things I'm saying now. Am I going to be pissing him off, and is he going to be with me here? Anyway,
well, fortunately, I'm in here to help you out on that situation with Brian. What I always like is Brian's always supportive of your channel, and I just, if you wouldn't mind, put his image back up there, just his profile picture there. I mean, that he looks like a stud. I'm not messing with that dude. I can tell you that right now. Look at that. It just like he's like a mercenary. I also saw somebody in the chat just going by really fast who was saying they're in Kremenchuk. I think it was Kremenchuk, Ukraine. So welcome to you there in Kremenchuk.
I do wonder how many people actually listen.
Oh, it's on my channel.
Ukraine.
No.
Hello from Kremenchuk, Ukraine.
Yeah,
it's John Hoover.
John Hoover. So thank you, John.
There you go. Awesome stuff. And a couple more super thanks here. So we have Surprise It's Us. Thanks, Lynn. Here is a match that's really, really kind of you. And Chris, who has already contributed today already, giving another match there. Thank you very much, Chris. And reach out to Greg. Try and get his email. You should find it on gregterry.org. And then if you've got that vehicle that you can get to Ukraine, that'd be amazing. AJ Simo, legend. Keep on keeping on. I am indeed still keeping on at keeping on. Alistair Fitchie, thank you so much. Remember why we call the snatches pigs? I'm not sure what that's reference to. Snatches. The Land Rover snatches that we're talking about, so I don't know what that relevance is, Alistair, but you can let me know. But thank you very much.
What is? I don't know either. Please educate us.
And finally, Graham Baker popped over from ATP, so this is to you.
Oh, thank you, Graham.
Because it wasn't letting me donate for some reason. Please put this to good use.
We will put it right to the project. We're trying to finish out the snatches, and guys, tomorrow night, tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have an update on the snatches.
10 p.m. UK time.
10 p.m. UK time, and
12 p.m. Ukraine time.
Gonna be quite impressive.
Excellent. There are other things, many things we could talk about, but I'd probably need to let you go, my good man.
Yeah, on Tuesday nights, I'm on with Andrew Mercado here in a little bit. I do a Ukraine update for him every Tuesday. So I'll grab something to eat before I join him, see my kids and family, and thank everybody. 7 a.m. in the Oz. There you go, Linda, and down in Australia. Johnny, I just want to say thank you, brother. I think people really enjoy this because we have we show that people can work together and have a common goal, and actually we agree on many more things than we disagree on. And maybe that just brings the question is if we can do that, Why can't others, especially those that can make decisions that can help, a nation that's struggling right now? So
yeah, definitely, and I really do believe that. And there are some people in Congress that I really think that they should realize how important this is to walk across the aisle and vote for a discharge petition, or go to Mike Johnson and say, look, if you don't do this, then I'm going to do this, that kind of thing. That I refer people back to this video. I'm just going to post it up one more time. It really is good, and it talks on. It's over here. It talks about a lot about what some people could be doing but aren't doing in the cloisters.
Drop your lower third there. Drop your lower
Congress.
third so we can see it. The title.
Yep, Adam Kinzinger, GOP's embrace of Russian propaganda. It's on the Bulwark, which is a conservative YouTube channel, although it's an anti-Trump conservative YouTube channel. But it is such a good interview that it really is worth watching. So yeah, go and check that out, peeps. And thank you. Yeah,
I'm reading the chat, and I just learned what the snatch comment means, and all I can say is, I'm sitting here having a live stream with an atheist, drinking beer, and we're having female body part terms in slang dropped in the chat. See, I'm really pushing the envelope today.
That's what I knew it meant in my younger years, but I was like, surely it doesn't mean that. Surely it doesn't mean that. But I know exactly what that means.
I'm really pushing the envelope tonight.
Bell Cowart, just give some love and support to those who are fighting for freedom. Slava Ukraini from This American.
Awesome.
And we should probably, as we do two more, we'll probably leave you guys with a bit of a slava. Zoe Blackmore, such an amazing supporter of both channels. Thank you, Zoe, for Greg, on behalf of Greg there. That's awesome. And Alistair Fitchie, put the handbrake on whilst the vehicle is still rolling and you break the half shaft. That's a pig. So actually, he wasn't talking about anything dodgy. Someone else misread the
a slang term. I know
that's what's that. Yeah, that's the but the pig that he's explaining what the pig was. So with the snatch, pull the handbrake on.
Thank you, Alistair.
Still rolling, you break the half shaft. That's called a pig. Awesome, and thanks for the support there, Alistair. It's really, really kind of you. I guess we should have just a big thanks to everyone in the live chat for keeping the ball rolling here and for such lively conversations. Thanks to Tanya Rindenko, who's such a marvelous supporter.
I'm going to have to start reading the 23rd Psalm pretty soon.
Please don't. So. So quick, Slava Ukraini. No, you can psalm all you like, mate. No. Thank you, Greg. Thank you to everyone. What final words do you have, my friend?
Well, the final word I have is thank you. Thank you. I hope we're demonstrating that people can work together and focus on what's important. And I will say this, I was seeing in the chat there. We are going to do some custom graphic work on the armored vehicles when they come into Ukraine. They will have different channels names on it and like from the people of the world, and we're going to get them to Frontline. You guys will all see this, but I promise you they will not have the word snatch on the side. They're going to have slang on, maybe like junkyard dog or something. I don't know, but it's not going to be snatch. I promise you.
Brilliant. Mitch Mazaral, thanks, mate. He's such an awesome guy. Thanks, gents. Carry on.
Thank you to all my mods. Thank you. We're working on something even cooler. Keep you guys posted.
And Papa Dutch again. Good thing I sandbag. I just had to pay late property taxes. I have no idea what that means. That's American speak for something.
Well, he had to pay his taxes and he's sandbagging, meaning he came in late with the donation.
Ah, right. Thanks for translating this crazy bastardization of the English language. I don't know.
Yeah, we've completely destroyed it. You know, listen, we're just Americans. We're not dogs bollocks, but we're doing our best.
Yeah, you just keep on trying. Right, guys. Well, look, thank you so much to everyone. Really appreciate you all. I really appreciate Greg's work and what he does.
Likewise for you, Johnny.
Big love to him and all the admin staff behind the scenes. As he's mentioned already, they need a real big clap on the back and a thanks and a hug. So they can have that virtually from me.
I did have a message earlier from one of my mods that said a guy in chat was donating 1,000 quid. I don't know if I said it earlier. I was make sure I got that in there. So thank you. That'll go straight to the snatches. No, I
That'll
did not just
be
say that. That'll go straight to the armored vehicle project. You guys have demented me tonight, but I'm working on it, to the armored vehicle project, and we'll keep you posted. Tomorrow night, big
Stay
update.
innocent, my friend. Stay innocent.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Well, look, thank you, and thanks to all the donations to the cause. Take care, everybody, and toodle pits from me.
Slava Ukraina.
Heroin Slava!
Ah.